Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining my session today. So today we're going to be talking about identities around the world at your fingertips. And my name is Sameera Perera, and I am a Microsoft P-seller, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and Microsoft Azure advisor as well. So I work for a company called Empire in Australia, which is a Microsoft Gold partner on Azure. And I'm considered as an industry expert on Microsoft Azure Identity and Windows Server and Hyper-V. Also certified as Azure Architect and also Office 365 and Windows Server Solution Expert as well. So let's get into business. So what is Azure Active Directory B2C is what I'm going to be talking today first, and then we'll be talking about the components in Azure Active Directory, which are accounts, applications, authentication, and policies, etc. Then I'm gonna be driving the session more with demos. So it's gonna be useful for you guys to understand what I'm talking about. First one thing, and then again it's visualized also. So I'm gonna be taking a real world example with an application, and then I'm gonna be using Azure Active Directory B2C in order to provide authentication to that application. So all going to be driven through the demos. So also at the end I'll be talking about the UI customizations. So let's get it started then. So what is Azure Active Directory B2C? So it's a consumer facing identity management system as a service kind of thing. So it's basically an Azure Active Directory that Microsoft provide that can be integrated with your application, which provides consumer-based authentication for the application. So the developers, one of the main problems they have currently is if they are developing an application, then how do they provide authentication to that application? So if they were to develop the authentication platforms for that as well, it's a huge burden for them. And it's a lot of work as well. So to provide modern way of authentication, it's not that easy. And how do you secure it is another biggest question. So as a developer, you don't want to talk about security as well, and it's best to outsource it to a different environment, and that's where Azure Active Directory B2C comes in. So it provides consumer-facing identity and access management as a service in a nutshell. So key components in there is that it integrates with modern phone and web apps, which is pretty good, and it's available and scales to hundreds of millions of citizens and consumers. So because its backend is Azure Active Directory, and it's a proven service that can scale up to millions of user accounts, and in Azure Active Directory currently provides billions of authentications per day, and it has millions of user accounts currently provisioned around the world. So also Azure Active Directory is a distributed service, so it's scattered around the world, provides authentication with minimum latency to the users. Also Azure Active Directory provides less control less control of identity and data, and also life cycle for you, so that developers can more focus on the application logic and application itself. So it's actually it's very Azure Active Directory B2C is very customizable in terms for developers, and it also gives you self-service password reset capabilities and user profile editing capabilities as well. So the beauty of this comes with the social identity integration. So with this Azure Active Directory B2C, it provides local identity manipulation and also provides the integration with the social identities, which can be Facebook, Google, or Microsoft accounts, or it can be LinkedIn account, and etc. So there's plenty of consumer identity providers that are there that can be integrated with Azure Active Directory B2C. And also because it's backed by the Azure Active Directory, it provides best security as possible in the identity world. because it's backed by this Microsoft security at the end of the day, because it's backed by the Azure Active Directory. So with the Azure Active Directory B2C, it provides a separate set of services basically. So it provides browser apps, it provides authentication to browser apps, native apps, web apps, and web APIs. Also, it is very extensible. That's why developers like it so much these days. So it provides local accounts, social accounts, and also account attributes that can be customized. Email verification can be used, also phone verification. UI customizations is a big winner. Also, token claims can be customized. Reporting APIs can be customized. With the integration, it provides Graph API into the directory, and also OIDC and MSAL for authentication side of things. So with that, we next talk about the accounts, authentication, and policies. So with the accounts, so we are talking about consumer accounts here. So Azure Active Directory B2C provides a local directory that can be used as a local repository for your application. So which means you can get users to sign up using a valid email address, and then that will create a local account in that directory, and that way you can manage your local accounts using the Azure Active Directory B2C. Or otherwise, you can get consumer identity providers, which are external accounts, such as Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and Microsoft, etc. So the other accounts all the accounts can be protected using MFA, and also you can use the local passwords. You can use password reset on the local accounts that you create. With the app integration, applications, all the applications that you use has to be integrated with the Azure Active Directory B2C, and it must be developed in a way that it can be integrated with Azure Active Directory B2C. So it needs to use the modern authentication protocols. Also, if you are using like maybe mobile apps or like API apps, then you can use OAuth as the authentication platform. Again, all the consumer experiences are all described by policies, which I will later on discuss. With the authentication, so the policy, because it's a policy based, all your authentication requests is defined by a policy which is passed by the parameter P with the policy name. So with the policies, policies basically is the main driver for Azure Active Directory B2C, because it defines the sign-up process, the sign-in process, and also user editing and all the password reset policies. So it basically tells you what process to take during the sign-up and what process to take during maybe a user profile editing, etc. So also applications can be integrated with multiple policies of different types. Applications are invoked using that P parameter, the policy that's defined for that application. So you can have, like we explained, sign up policies, sign in policies, and that's a per tenant basis. And also you can have multiple. It's a multi-tenant platform. And then Azure Active Directory B2C has the tenant-wise based policy, and then it talks to the B2C engine at the bottom. So we'll get into the demos, and we'll talk about the Azure Active Directory B2C with the demos walking through. So here I am in my Azure subscription. So Azure Active Directory B2C is another resource that's provided as Azure service. So if you search for Azure Active Directory B2C, you will find that there's a new resource that can be created. So let's first create a Azure Active Directory B2C tenant, and then see, and then we'll walk through what happens. So every Azure Active Directory B2C tenant you create, you need to actually link it to a subscription. So that's mainly because mainly for management purposes and also cost purposes. So because because it's a directory, it needs to be built, obviously. So for the costing purposes, it needs to be built to a subscription. So it needs to be linked to a subscription on that side way. And also because it's another resource, it needs to be managed. So it needs to be placed in a resource group. So that's why it needs to be put into a Azure Active Directory resource group and needs to be managed that way. So therefore it needs a subscription at the end. So let's wait till the directory is created, and it's going to take a bit of time. And then once it's created, we'll link it to the Azure Active to my Azure subscription. Okay, now that the Azure Active Directory B2C tenant has been created, let's go ahead and link it. So I'm gonna say link. Let's wait. Yeah, this is the tenant that I just created. Let's put it in a new one. Yeah, let's wait for that. And then once it's created, let's go ahead and have a look at the resource group. And now you can see the Azure Active Directory B2C tenant. So in order for you to manage this Azure Active Directory B2C tenant, you need to click and go into that tenant. It's a little bit confusing because you're actually working on a different tenant right now. So what I'm working on in right now is it's my directory that's bound to my subscription. So like that, the B2C tenants will list up in here wherever you have access to. So it's a little bit confusing. So if you want to manage when you later on, when you want to manage, you can swap between the directories in here as well. So here we are inside the Azure Active Directory B2C. So within here, you can manage your Azure Active Directory B2C, and then it gives you the management features, and then it gives you the policy features. So policies are the main backbones of the Azure Active Directory B2C. First, I will talk about the management capabilities that it has built into that. So in here you can, first of all, as in the overview, you have the directory name, which you will need when you configure the applications, and then also the subscription. So the subscription ID that the directory is bound to. Then we have the application. So every application that you want to provide authentication using this Azure Active Directory B2C tenant, you can add them in, and then you can have multiple applications added if you want to use the same directory for all of them. Then we have the identity providers, where local identity providers, they come in as default. This is the local identity, means you can use an email address, and then if the user can verify the email address, then you can create a local account using that email address in your Active Directory B2C tenant. Apart from local accounts, you can add other social providers. So for instance, you can add Facebook as identity provider, you can add Google, Microsoft accounts, LinkedIn, Amazon, and etc. So then we have the user attributes. So every B2C tenant, they have a user schema. So this schema is extensible, and it comes with the default schema, which has all these attributes. So you can add your own custom attributes if you want, like you can say user height or user weight, and then you can add attributes into that. Next, we have the users and groups. So users and group it takes you into the directory. So you can manage your local users and groups within this B2C tenant. Currently, I have only my account here, and you can go into users and you can create groups, reset passwords of local accounts, and do some branding, etc. So that's all about the management capabilities within the directory, and then we come into the important topic is policies. So like I explained in the slides, so policies governs everything, the process for the sign up and also for the sign in. So I'm gonna explain this while I create a policy, which I will use for one of my applications. So every policy you create, you follow a naming standard which comes in which explains in the articles. So I follow the normal naming standards, which is always prefixed with these characters that I typed. So with the sign up and sign in policy together, I'm gonna give that policy name as this, and then I'm gonna select email sign up as the identity provider, which is going to be the local accounts. So if I want, I can add Google into here, and then I can have Facebook, but I need to add them first as identity provider. For that, you need to go to the identity providers developer portal, register that as an application, and then add it in that way. So there's some work to be done. But once you add that in, it's just another identity provider, and this works the same way. Once the identity providers are selected, then we can select what attributes during the sign up. So this means what attributes does the user needs to type in during the sign up process. So I want the user to provide me the email address, of course, and this given name, last name, and probably the postal code. So that's all I need from my users during the sign in. So those are the attributes I select for the sign up attributes. Once that's done, we have the application claims. So application claims defines during an authentication what sort of claims to be passed to the application. So now I know that I have my email address, given name, and surname within the user account, and I want to pass those information during a signing process. And also I want to pass my object ID, also if a user is new or not, because I want to do some welcome message on my application based on that, and also the identity provider, which identity provider it comes from, probably the display name as well. So click OK. I don't think I selected display name in this, so I'll select the display name there as well. Next we have is the multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication, if you want, you can have get them to do the multi-factor authentication during a sign-up process and even a sign-in process. The other one that I didn't discuss is the UI customization, which was there. You can do any UI customization, so it's all up to the developer to do the UI branding based on whatever you have in that application. So that's now created. So sign up and sign in policy is now created, as you saw. Let's go ahead and create a user profile editing policy. So with the user profile editing policy, I'm going to be using the same naming standard, and what this is it actually gives the user the ability to edit their information in the profile. So if you want to modify your postcode or your first name, last name, then you can do it. So like this, like the same way, you select the identity provider, and then again what sort of attributes you want them to modify. So I want them to modify the display name, postcode, again the surname, and the given name. Once that's done, again during profile editing, I want them to pass email address, given name, surname, postcode, because once they're updated, I want the claims to be updated as well. Again, you can do the full UI customization as I explained, and then create the profile editing. At the same time, while it creates, we'll create another policy for password reset. So I'm gonna call it SSPR, and then again local identities as identity providers. Next up we have is application claims. So I want when a user resets password, I want these claims to be passed. Okay, with that, I don't want any multi-factor authentication for this case, and UI customization I'm not gonna go ahead. So that's being created. Now all the policies are created. Now we need to use an application, and then now we need to modify the application, and then um, input these parameters, input these policies as the parameters for that application. So for the application, I'm going to be using be using the demo application, which is provided by the official documentation. So this application is basically let's go back to the slides where I have some details about the application. So this is the demo 2. So we configure the application, and now we'll configure the policies. Let's integrate this into the application. So we created some policies to provide Azure Active Directory B2C authentication. Now let's get the web app, talk into that, and then configure that configure it to use the policies that we just created. So this web application has it's a two-tier application. So it has a web front end and then an API at the back. And what it does is it's a simple task management. So you can add task as it's a task management application. So you can add tasks and then remove tasks from that application. So let's go ahead and then have a look at how this application looks like from the Visual Studio side. So that's basically, in the solution you have two projects. You have the web app and the app service. This is the API app. So first of all, if you look at the application, this application has a web.config file where we need to input our B2C configuration details, and even the task service has a web.config file where we need to input the B2C configuration details. So this is a .NET application, and it depends on the Ovin library where this application uses. So therefore I need to install that Ovin application as because it's a prerequisite for this project. While it installs, I'm gonna be actually populating these values from my tenant. So let's go ahead and copy the tenant name that we just created. So let's go to the overview and then copy this tenant name, and then I'm gonna say yes to that. So the tenant name is that. So let's modify the tenant name in both areas. And then we need to, that's the tenant name and the policy name. So let's override the policy names here. So let's find it out what policy names I gave to these ones. So that's my sign up policy. And I remember password reset was SSPR, and I don't recall my editing policy. So let's copy this name for my editing policy. Alright, that's my editing policy, and yeah, that should be it. So that's all we can do right now. So we need to register the application to get the application the client ID. So let's first publish these two so that we get a proper valid URL. So currently it's configured for localhost, which is not gonna work, and then we'll actually publish this application into an Azure app service, and then let's get a proper URL and configure it that way. Right, as you can see, it's successfully, the web application now is successfully published into the application, and let's go ahead and publish the web API as well. So let's go ahead and publish web API. So I'm gonna create new, and then task service API, and I'm gonna choose the existing existing app service plan, and then create. So let's wait for this to complete as well. So as you can see, the API now published as well. All right, let's go ahead and configure the Azure Active Directory B2C and register these two APIs and the application. So first of all, let's go ahead and do the application. So this is the application URL, and let's go to the B2C side of things, and then add as application. So I'll go to the applications, and then I'll go add application, and then call this. I'll call this the task app. And yes, it's a web app and API, and I want the response URL to be this. And just note that it has to be HTTPS, and I don't have any app ID URI on this, and then that's all I want to enter. So that's the web API, that's the web app. And then let's add the task app API as well on this. So it's a web app API, yes. And then again, yes, I want that URL to be a different URL. I need that to be the API URL, so which is this one here. So the reply URL should be this, but it should be HTTPS. And then I want an app ID URI for this, because in order for it to use the barrier tokens, it needs to listen the Azure AD B2C should listen on an API request. So this is the endpoint for that I know that I give them, and then I'll go create on that as well. So for the web application to talk to the API, again we need to give the API access. So how we do that is, on the API we need to give the read and write scopes. So this will be the read scope, that's the description, and then we need to also configure a write scope. So I'll create both of those scopes, and that's on the API side you need to do. And also on the application side, we need to create again, from the application side we need to create a key. So we'll generate the key and then save it. Also we need to give, so I'll just copy this into my clipboard, and then also we need to give API access, which means we need to give the task app API we just created, and we need to give access to these two scopes. So I'll press OK on that as well. And again, we'll go back to the application, and then we'll configure the rest of the parameters. So on the application itself, we have the client secret, which is the secret that we just generated, and I've just pasted that one in here. Again, in regards to response redirect URI, so the API redirect URI should be this. So I'll go to the API here. Yeah, actually we don't need a URI there, so we need the website URL, which is this one here, web app URI. So we configure the web app URI rather than a local host address. We configure the real URI. And yeah, with the web API URI, we need it in here. So this has to be the web API URI, and again all of those should be HTTPS. So that's being done, and I need this. This is the barrier token issuer listener on the tenant side. So I'll replace that with my tenant, and I give it the tasks read write, that's correct. and I want the application ID on both those. So let's go ahead and grab the application IDs. So that should be on the properties. So these are the application IDs. So this is the task app application ID. Let's replace that in here as well. So that's done, and so let's go ahead and copy the API application ID. So the API application ID should be in here. Just copy that, and then we paste this API application ID in here. So that should be it. And yeah, so that should be it. So let's save everything and then publish this the API and the website. So let's have a look and see how it goes. So once that's done, let's click on this actually the application. So let's go to the application, and then let's browse to the application and see how it's looking like. So if I type to the application, yes, I can get to the application, and then I need an account to log into this. So if I click sign up and sign in, it will take me here, but I don't have an account yet. So if you have, like we said, this is all provided by the Azure Active Directory B2C. It takes me to this page where it gives, I need to have a valid email address. So I'll type my email address in here, and then send verification code. So I didn't program as a developer, I didn't program any of these. So it does the verification side of things as well, and that's all done by the Azure Active Directory B2C. So it has sent me a verification code, which I will quickly grab from my Google account, and I'll quickly paste that. I will give a new password to this. So postcode and my surname, given name, and then I click create. So this will create me a local account, and it will have my email address, which is verified. And yep, so now I'm logged in as Sameera Perera. So if I go to claims, I can see all these details. So I'm a new user, and I have this username, first name, and my display name as well. So this is my policy that I used in this case. So what I would do now, I'll try and talk to the API which I configured. Let's see if it works or not. It works. So because I did the API with the barrier token protection as well, so it passes me all of my token details into the API, and then it signs me in as Sameera Perera to the API as well. So if I type tables here to do, and everything will be there. So if I sign out, it signs me out, and then if I sign in again, this time I'm not gonna go in and sign up again. I'm gonna go in as the existing user. You type in my username and password into this, and it will take me in. So here I am logged into here. If I go to my to-do list, and I have the to-do items that I added in before. So that's how it works, and I'll show you some UI customizations which I have done. I don't have enough time to show that how it's done. So it's basically modified where I showed you in each policy you have UI customization. You can go ahead and modify those UI customizations. So this is one of my other sites that I have done. So if I go sign in, and then it will take me into a sign-in page, which is again fully customized. So you can play with the UI, where you can have a wallpaper in here, and then you can do as much as customizations you want. You can put a logo in, and if you have any identity providers, then you can add them in. When you click on the Google IDP, then it takes you to the Google sign-in page. So that kind of integration that Microsoft Azure Active Directory B2C provides. So let's go back to the slides again now. So so yeah, UI customizations basically provides you with like whatever the page customizations you do, if you put this division in there, and then it will add the policy attributes in the page, and then it will give you a nicely rendered customized page afterwards. So let's go ahead and talk a bit of pricing, how Azure Active Directory B2C's pricing is done. So it's done in three different ways. Like there are three different components that incur charges in Azure Active Directory B2C. So the number of users stored in the directory gives charges you. So for the first 50,000, which is a lot, it's for free. And anything more than that, it gives you this pricing level. So it for the next 950,000 users, then it gives you this pricing, and so on and so forth. So with the authentication, so the other factor is the authentication that they charge on. So the first 50,000 authentications or the tokens issued are for free for a month, and then the more than 50,000, then you get charged as per the table. Again, Azure MFA, it's charged at a flat rate of $0.039 per authentication. And in summary, so this is fully managed identity and identity and access management service provided by Azure, mainly pointed at consumer identities. And also it helps developers big time to develop rich applications with securing your identities and using all the modern auth that's there in the world, and you can pretty much build very interactive applications using Azure Active Directory B2C. Yeah, so the policies are the key thing that governs all the sign-in, password resets, and etc. So that's pretty much it I wanted to cover. So hope you got a glimpse of what Azure Active Directory B2C is and how you can use it. So plenty of material there on the net. You can grab them and then take it to the next level. If you have any questions, I'm on Twitter. Just ping me on Twitter, or you can follow my blog, or you can drop me an email. Thanks very much for listening or joining my session, and yeah, I hope I contributed something.